sufficient lubrication there to get one more?
Okay.
All right.
Go.
Zachary,
you want the pro stuff, or do you want to just keep?
Yeah, just talk to him.
Okay.
All right, we're here with Dan Jurgens. Dan just got announced as the new ongoing writer of Superman with number 7, which is coming out in March, I think.
Right, along with Keith Giffen.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're also drawing the book.
Yes.
I was not at the Justice League panel. Did they announce who the inker is, or what's going on with that, or is that still up in the air?
It's still pretty much. Well, I think it's pretty safe to say that what we're going to be doing is Keith and I will be co-writing the book. I'll be drawing the book, and Jesus Marino, who is currently on it, will continue to stay on, and will be providing inks on the book as well. That way, I think you'll have a certain consistency to it, while also getting a little aspect of new to it at the same time.
And certainly that's the order of the day with putting you back on Superman. It's been interesting. I was at the Superman panel. You were talking about new.
Yes.
Certain books seem to embrace that more than others. What is it that makes you, as a guy who's been around for a while, very eager to jump in and kind of toe that line and say, like, yes, everything's going to be brand new?
I don't think it's a question of towing the line as much as as we look at it right now, there are a lot of people who are picking this stuff up for the first time. They might have been comic readers before, but certainly they weren't necessarily reading all of the titles, or they were just picking up, Batman or something like that. And there's obviously new people sampling this stuff for the first time. I think what they deserve, instead of the 15th retelling of a particular villain's origin or something like that, they deserve new stuff. And I think what we have to do more often as creators anyway is challenge ourselves to do new stuff and put new ideas around these characters. It's got to be bigger than just doing, yet another name your favorite villain story. There's going to be a place for both. There are still iconic trappings to these characters and concepts that have to come back into it, but you need that balance. And right now I think the balance should tilt towards new a little bit.
And obviously, George had one story he wanted to tell, and he's doing his arc, and then he's off.
Yeah.
Are you going to be? Is he leaving you guys in a position to pick up on themes from his run, or is it more a thing of a fairly self-contained story, and then you guys use that atmosphere to move on to the new thing?
I think it's the latter. Obviously, what you've seen is George introduce, some new characters and a certain paradigm for what Metropolis is now, what the Daily Planet is now, things like that. We will take that and we will continue to work within that structure. At the same time, Keith and I have very much created a couple of stories we want to tell, and some of them are Clark Kent oriented, other ones are Superman oriented, but we are definitely saying, okay, Keith, thank you, you gave us the springboard, and now we're going to take that and run with it and paint some new around it as well.
Now, one of the things that George did do was with the villain blowing, or presumably villain, the character blowing the horn, it's tying into Stormwatch, and it very much seems like Superman is a big part of the DC universe in a way that he hasn't been in a while, frankly. Is that something you guys are going to be carrying forward? Is Superman still kind of be one of the big interlocking titles?
Yeah, that would be great.
I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. You mean in terms of reflecting other events in the DC universe, or the character himself?
Yeah, events in the DC universe. The blowing of the horn was referenced in Stormwatch, and Stormwatch is one of those books that seems to kind of very subtly be positioning itself to be a big, kind of broad picture place for things to happen in the DCU. And I was just wondering if that's also something that's going to carry over to Superman, in terms of Superman being a place where something happens and it affects everybody.
I think not initially. Ultimately it will get there, because one of the truisms would be, if there had ever been a threat that came and managed to beat down Superman, at that point, that's when everyone in the world, sits up and pays attention. As far as I'm concerned, Superman is still the preeminent hero in the DCU, if not comics as a whole. That's for others to argue about, I suppose, and decide. But, he's still, as far as I'm concerned, #1 in the DCU. So I think it's appropriate that if something happens in Metropolis, that there be some aspect of that reflected elsewhere, and vice versa. I think that part of what we can still continue to do a better job of, for example, is if you're walking past a TV monitor someplace and you look up and you see something that might be a news story from Gotham that just says, you know, and Two-Face was brought down last night or brought in, you know, Precinct 13, whatever it might be. And that's something we should do more of.
And my last question, just to give us a nice wrap-up point, is tell us a little bit about the Lois and Jimmy marriage.
In terms of new stuff, I think I made a joke on the panel about the wedding of Jimmy and Lois coming in 2013. Yes, that was a joke. We're not serious about that. Maybe. With Keith Giffen, one never knows. But no, I think what we've tried to do is to say that I really like sort of the flavor that Grant and George have given Jimmy so far. I think the relationship he has with Lois is really nice. He's more competent. They're more like co-workers rather than, you know, master reporter and cub reporter. Let's be honest, what the hell? Have you ever met a cub reporter? But I like that relationship a lot. I want to continue to explore that and see how Clark fits into that. I like the friendship that is evolving and has been there, obviously, between Clark and Jimmy. And so we made that joke, and I think the reason I did is we do want to do new stuff as well. We are going to take some things and turn them on their head a little bit here. So yeah, stay tuned. I think we have some fun stuff coming up.
All right, Dan, thanks very much, and I'll talk to you in a couple of weeks for JLI number 3.
Sounds good.